This is the Nedgroup Investments Insights podcast, where one or more of our experts explore a variety of views and insights that investors care about.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Nedgroup Investments Insights podcast. I'm Robin Johnson, Head of Investments at Nedgroup Investments. Today, we're stepping slightly beyond the traditional world of investing to look at something a lot closer to home, how we spend. We often talk about returns, asset allocation, diversification, the saving and investing side of the equation, but spending plays just as powerful a role in long-term financial outcomes. So how do we think about spending in a way that actually supports our wealth instead of undermining it? With me to unpack this is one of our most anticipated and enjoyed guests, Executive Head of Nedgroup Investments, Nic Andrew. Welcome back, Nic.
Thanks, Rob. Always a pleasure.
Now, Nic, as I just mentioned in the intro, we tend to separate the concepts of saving, the good habit, and spending, the thing we need to control or reduce. What are your views on this?
When we think about financial decision-making, spending and saving shouldn't be separated. Every rand we choose to spend is a rand we choose not to invest. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't spend. Spending is how we enjoy our lives. But thinking holistically about it means recognizing the opportunity cost of our spending decisions. Saving isn't something extra. It's part of our spending plan. For example, instead of only focusing on the now, we can choose to allocate part of our expenditure to future needs and financial freedom and independence. And that mindset shift can be very powerful.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. That investing isn't separate from spending, but it's actually a category of spending. So when you frame investment contributions as a committed part of your monthly budget, it becomes a habit and not a sacrifice, right?
Exactly. And honesty is the starting point. That means tracking and categorizing spending, noticing patterns, especially emotional ones, and asking, does this spending genuinely add value? Or is it just habitual, impulsive, or status-driven? I love referring to investment books, and one that I've read recently is Morgan Housel's The Art of Spending. In it, he really dives into the psychology behind what makes us spend money and healthier ways to think about it. He makes the point that good spending is not about deprivation. It's about spending on what truly matters to you, while avoiding the spending that tries just to impress others. When people align spending with their values, they feel more financially confident and happier with their choices because they're spending intentionally.
For many people, spending feels automatic, especially at the end and beginning of a year or even the beginning and end of the month, as the list of expenses seems never ending. Do you have some practical habits or tips that listeners can adopt to get the right balance?
Sure, I like a few that really help me. The first is pay yourself first. That means automating investment contributions the moment income arrives. If you never see it, you never miss it. And that's why I think the simple debit order is one of my favorite. I think it's so powerful as it forces a fantastic habit. And if one makes it into a tax-free investment, all the better. The next is linked to this, and that's when your income arises, increase your investment contributions first before allowing for lifestyle creep. The third is to build buffers. It's very helpful to have an emergency fund, ideally 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenditure, because this prevents forced selling or bad borrowing decisions when life happens. And it really does help and allow for peace of mind. The fourth is on a regular basis, and let's say annually, review your high-level spending to make sure your discretionary spending categories reflect the values and things that provide you with contentment. This might be family experiences, health, learning, etc. And these are going to be different for each person, and that's why it's called the art of spending and not the science of spending. Fifth is, I think, it's worth reviewing big-ticket items annually, looking at things like housing, cars, subscription creep, because these often matter more to long-term wealth than small cuts. And finally, make sure that the investments that you make are working hard for you, that there are sufficient amount of investments into growth assets, that they're well diversified across geographies, asset classes and sectors, that costs are well controlled, And once you've got a sensible plan, don't do too much or let your emotions derail that plan. These habits, I think, can help people feel in control and not be constrained.
I'm just going to pivot slightly and just talk a little bit about 2025. It's been a challenging but also a rewarding year for investors. Global markets have kept everyone on their toes, affected by things like US exceptionalism, falling but stubborn inflation, which leads to an interest rate uncertainty. And there's been multiple geopolitical or global political shifts. We've also had a wide dispersion between asset classes, countries, industries, even individual companies. I just look at some of the returns in the equity markets from India at 11%, US at 17%, and South Africa at 36% in Rand for this year. It's an incredible range that people need to pick between. But when volatility is high, people tend to pull back from investing because it feels risky or uncertain or don't know where to place money, which can be destructive in the long run. Now, we're seeing inflationary pressure on household budgets and uncertainty weighing on investor sentiment. Have you got any thoughts around that, Nic?
Yeah, right. I think that's exactly why routines matter. And another point I'll make is, we always say the world is uncertain. And whenever we're in the present, we think it is. And when we reflect back, we think it used to, because we know how it turned out, we think it's much safer. But I think the reality is that the world is always going to feel uncertain. And this just highlights why the habit of investing becomes more important than the performance of investing. Even small, consistent contributions really build resilience and can compound very materially over time. And again, it comes back to being deliberate with spending, recognizing that uncertainty is part of investing, but time is really your ally.
Okay, now maybe we can take a look at the year ahead. What's your best piece of spending wisdom for long-time financial well-being and as we head into 2026?
Yeah, I think because we've been chatting about Morgan Housel's book, and I highly recommend people put it on their reading list, but a few quotes from him. So he says, the ultimate goal of money is to help you live a life that brings you joy and independence. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. So my advice would be, spend in line with your values, not in line with society's expectations. When spending creates lasting satisfaction, not momentary status, you actually need less of it. And the surplus becomes the foundation of long-term wealth.
I guess this is particularly relevant given this time of year, having just been bombarded by the retail marketeers through the collective onslaught of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And now we're heading into the holiday season. Can you give me an example of how you try to avoid spending that is not necessarily beneficial or even intentional?
Yeah, I think I've probably got lots of examples, all these wonderful targeted social emails that suck you into these phenomenal once-off deals. An example that happened to me is they obviously know I love my paddle, and I suddenly was seeing 60% deals off my perfect paddle bat that was going to improve my Playtomic rating. And I really, really nearly bought one before I realized I actually didn't need one at all. And it was quite a valuable lesson, just realizing how targeted and clever these ads have become.
I nearly bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner yesterday for Claire's Christmas present. I don't think that would have gone down too well. So, Nic, before we sign off, what should investors keep in mind as a high level as 2026 kicks off?
I'd say that there are three simple principles. The first is that uncertainty is a constant. There will always be a new theme or headline, and so successful investors just stay focused on the long-term goals, not on short-term noise. The second is that flexibility matters. Have a plan, but be ready to adjust as life and markets change. Good spending habits and emergency buffers actually give you this flexibility to make better, unemotional investing decisions. And the third is that time in the market still wins. Whatever the macro environment serves up in 2026, remember that history consistently rewards those who stay invested, stay diversified, and keep adding to their portfolios.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, Nic. Time in the markets, not timing the market. That's a great adage. A solid reminder that even as the world changes, the fundamentals of building wealth don't.
Thanks, Rob.
So to our listeners, thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe and share the episode. There's plenty more to come here on the Nedgroup Investments Insights podcast. So until next time, spend wisely, invest intentionally, and look after your future self.
This podcast is for marketing purposes only. The information contained in the podcast or video was for information purposes and does not constitute advice, recommendation, or an offer or solicitation to purchase or sell any funds or strategies to any person in any jurisdiction in which the offer, recommendation, or solicitation to purchase would be unlawful.